At Canik Firearms, we believe in the power of freedom. Freedom to protect, to defend, and to live confidently. That's why we're proud to introduce the Canik Mete MC9L and MC9LS, precision-engineered pistols designed for today's American. Whether you're carrying concealed or out at the range, the MC9L and MC9LS are built for accuracy, durability, and comfort. These pistols are the perfect blend of performance and dependability, because freedom isn't just a right, it's a responsibility. Canik, superior firearms.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Crashed into the World Trade Center in New York.
Trying to reconcile how Benghazi was not safe enough for the Federal Bureau of Investigation to go, but it was safe enough to leave a below-spec facility for our diplomats to stay in.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. You got a belly up to the bar, we've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. Flackbait is going to be your bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is in fact lighted. It's to my left, your right, which means actually two things. Besides listening right here on SHRmedia.com, you can go to the SHR Media Facebook page and watch live right now. You can also go to the SHR Media YouTube channel and watch live right now, right here, right now. Because we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze is not. All that we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, and for God's sakes, don't forget to tip your waitress. Shoo. Okay, what is today? Well, it's the last show of the year. Because, well, wait a minute.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Thanks, Ron. And I had to end the year with a Ronald Reagan quote. Thank you ever so kindly. It is December the 28th, 2017, the year of our Lord. It's the last show of 2017 for old BZ. Now, I like to start off the show. Well, first, let's say what it is. Let's be honest. It's going to be the Kurt Schlichter Commemorative Show hour, although there will be 2 hours because, of course, it's BZ, and you know there's going to be 2 hours of buttery political goodness to be expected. But we're going to talk about some I'm going to let you hear some Kurt Schlichter articles, and the reason I do this is because Kurt Schlichter can write an article like very few can, and I only read articles of those people who are writing things or expressing things in a fashion that I wish I could. One of these days, damn it, I'm going to have Kurt Schlichter on. This is not the day. I have not officially contacted him yet, but I want you to get kind of in the mood of understanding what it is that Kurt Schlichter writes and why his stuff is so good and why he lampoons the holy crap out of leftists all across the fruited plain and all across the globe. He skewers them with thought, logic, common sense, kind of the stuff that I like to do. So we'll get to Kurt because we are going to make massive fun of leftists tonight because they're so damn easy. They really are easy street. But first, because it's the last show of the year, as the sun kind of sets in the west, and I'm kind of sad, not really, to see 2017 go. 2017, don't let the door kick your butt on the way out, because I kind of am enjoying seeing you go. 2017 was not my finest year. It's been a nervous, just weird, psychotic kind of year. And as the Chinese have been wont to say, may you live in interesting times, which a lot of people don't realize is the Chinese equivalent of, really? Fuck you. 2017 was sort of a haunting year of incredible skullduggery, conspiracy, collusion, betrayal, backstabbing, and I haven't even gotten to anything not involving the Democrats yet. Seriously, though, for the SHR Media Network, 2017 was a big expansion year for SHR and for owners Clint and Sean. And shows were added, and they were expanded, rosters were changed, hours were increased, and the quality of the shows was greatly expanded. Now, specifically here in the studio, which is in Sacramento, Fornicalia, only a few miles from Leftist Central on the left coast, the Bill Mill at the state capitol. A lot of physical improvements were made here in the show. We had an old Behringer Xenix board, which weighed about 35 pounds, was a lot bigger and heavier than the board we had now. And it was imposing. I mean, the first time I saw this thing, it even imposed the crap out of me. It scared me to look. My first show, I thought, my God, I'm going to have to run that thing? Because it had bells all over it. My God, if you Google something like that, it's just incredible. It was imposing to look at. It was complicated to run. It wasn't easy. And actually, it was made, folks, to mix music, not radio, not broadcast media, in the slightest. And we replaced it with a much simpler, in my opinion, elegant, more efficient, and vastly more job-appropriate board. We purchased the Arrakis Arc Talk Blue board, which is the one that I run the show off of now right over here. It's a ton simpler. And we also upgraded the old laptop. The laptop that basically if you're looking at us right now on YouTube or on Facebook Live, the camera is sitting on top of a new HP laptop that we had because, unfortunately, the older one that we had, we actually lost shows because it ran out of RAM. And just like the quote in Silverado by John Cleese, it said, today, my journey.
At Century Arms, we're committed to supporting your freedom, your rights, and your way of life. With generations of craftsmanship and innovation, we proudly provide firearms that embody the spirit of liberty. Introducing the new Sharp Brothers MB-47 rifle, designed for precision, built for strength, and ready for anything. Whether you're on the range or defending what matters most, the MB-47 rifle is where generation meets innovation. For more information, visit us at centuryarms.com now.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Jurisdiction ends here, and then it would die and crash on us. Woo! That's not the way to win folks and influence people. So we got a brand new HP solid-state unit, which we now task with doing some other things that we certainly hadn't done at the beginning of the year. We task it with running the entire show, as well as we stream now on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously, and likewise Spreaker. So that laptop has got to run all three of those things. And we pitched a few mics and kept one. We kept Clint's mic over there. And we got a new Shure SM7B. And we had my Shure 55S, which is a super classic microphone that if you watch on Sackheads, it's right over there. And that's the one I speak to over there. And we also expanded our chat room recently to accommodate up to 100 chatters. Okay, I know what you're saying. 100 BZ, my God, what are you thinking? Well, about a week and a half ago, I had 30 people come into the chat room when I discovered, to my eminent chagrin, that the chat room at the time could only accommodate 10. So what the people had to do is, some had to log out, coordinate with each other, say, I'm logging out, you can log back in, and then through the rest of the show, we had 35 people going in and out of chat, so that they could talk on chat. And I figured that crap is dead. That's got to go. So we expanded the chat room as well. We have some goals for 2018, and the goal here at SHR is to keep this trend moving. One of the things that I wanted to do is to get a VoIP, voice over internet protocol phone system, so that we can take calls much more readily. The thing with Skype and with running it through the board here is kind of clunky. I want to be able to run conference calls. I want people to call in, and we can line them up, and we can just go, okay, caller number 1, boom, caller number 2, 3, caller number 4, number 5, number 6, whatever the hell that is. Do conference callings, just like a regular radio show. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to be expanding our lineup with Sam. Sam Correa is coming on in January. And I want to thank the people who support and appear on SHR Media and the folks who make up the SHR Media universe. That includes, obviously, the Sackheads Radio Show, Money Talk with Melanie Collette, the wonderful Jeff Dunnett's show, The Right Guy with Ralph J. Chittum's Sr., Jersey Joe, who you just listened to, The Reaver of Common Sense, The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Southern Sense Talk Radio, my glitchy show here, The Unpleasant Blind Guy, Dave Milner, and like I said, we've got a new show coming in January of this year. And I want to emphasize this. Some people may not think this is fair, but I'm going to say it anyway. We remind, and I would like to remind everybody, one and all, that we provide all of this stuff for free. There's no monetary block. There's no advertising block. There's no obstacle between ourselves and you and the content creators and those of you looking for great material. You don't need a password to see the shows, and you don't need to throw money at it to listen or see the shows as well. The only thing you need is a login if you want to get into the chat room, because that's via Chatroll, and that's how Chatroll rolls. So we don't charge. I want to emphasize that. We just provide what I consider to be clear thinking, logical, settled, calm Americans who are seeking, in terms of radio content, the same thing. We have, on the SHR Media Network, we have different voices. We have different views with common conservative and sometimes libertarian goals. There can be many roads to a final destination. And I'd like to thank the SHR Media Network guys for having me on, because I had no idea that this was coming until I looked at my little calendar. Next month, in just a few days, is going to be the 1-year anniversary of the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. And in retrospect, that's why I thought, I better give a shout-out to the SHR Media guys, Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint, for having me on the air. It's the end of 2017, and I think 2018 is going to be really good for the SHR Media Network. And look at it this way. You have to admit that if nothing else, 2018 is going to be a roller coaster of crap. Because if you think the Democrats were fighting in 2017, just wait until it is that Donald Trump, oh my God, people just absolutely go nuts when they hear Donald Trump, President Donald Trump. I suspect that 2018 might be the year in which he gets to make another SCOTUS appointment. And folks, if you think for a microsecond that the Democrats fought Neil Gorsuch, when it comes time for Donald Trump to appoint another nominee for the Supreme Court, if you think the fangs and claws were out, holy mother of God, are the fangs and claws going to be out in 2018? And now these days, I usually try to start the show in this fashion.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
And I have 3 for you tonight, all perfectly hand-selected by me for you with your mind in mind. Here's the first one. And the phrase turd burglar came right to me, but that's not exactly what this is. But hold that thought. Accused burglar in California doesn't flush toilet, leaves DNA for police. Oh, BZ, get your mind out of the toilet. I didn't write this, okay? Just saying. It matched another DNA profile in a national database, and detectives tracked down the suspect at his home from Ventura, California. Investigators say a suspect accused of burglarizing a Southern California home took a bathroom break and left DNA evidence in the toilet that led to his arrest. Detective Tim Lohman of the Ventura County Sheriff's Office says a suspect did not flush during the October break in the city of Thousand Oaks. He says that allowed investigators to collect evidence to conduct a DNA profile. In other words, he left a turd in the toilet, and that was used for DNA. That's not the kind of thing that you would think that if you watched the TV series CSI, CSI Miami, CSI Baghdad, CSI Downtown Egypt, etc. Yeah, that's not the kind of stuff.
At Century Arms, we're committed to supporting your freedom, your rights, and your way of life. With generations of craftsmanship and innovation, we proudly provide firearms that embody the spirit of liberty. Introducing the new Sharp Brothers MB-47 rifle, designed for precision, built for strength, and ready for anything. Whether you're on the range or defending what matters most, the MB-47 rifle is where generation meets innovation. For more information, visit us at centuryarms.com now.
That when after watching those shows, you go, I want to be a CSI guy. And then you finally find yourself on that call where you have to pull out your little glovies and go diving. Not exactly what you thought was going to occur. Andrew David Jensen was arrested July 28th on suspicion of burglary. Lohman did not know Tuesday if Jensen has an attorney. That's one thing. Then there's this. I frequently like to bring articles involving gunplay into the foray, and here's a very nice one because now this is much more timely. Resident kills one of 3 home invasion suspects during a Christmas Eve gunfight. Wow, this just got serious just for a second, but did it? Well, let's find out. A resident opened fire and killed one of 3 home invasion suspects after awakening to the sounds of someone in his home Christmas Eve. The incident occurred Sunday morning in the New Hanover County, North Carolina area. According to a radio station, the suspects entered the home about 2:30 a.m. Their movements awoke the homeowner who retrieved a firearm and engaged the suspects in a gunfight inside his house. The homeowner killed 31-year-old Hakeem Hanifa, causing the remaining 2 suspects to flee the scene. The radio station reports that the Hanover County Sheriff's Office spokesman, Lieutenant Jerry Brewer, described Hanifa as a validated gang member. Nice. Hanifa's criminal record includes a guilty plea to charges of a felony in possession of a firearm. Shock of shocks. He was also alleged to have punched a prison guard on Christmas Eve 2009 because he was not happy with the amount of food he was served. And I say that is a happy story. Let's not stop there because I actually have a happy story that is completely underreported. And this is the kind of thing that you need to know about. This is from Breitbart.com. The headline goes something like this. Donald Trump pays for Christmas dinner for hundreds of law enforcement members working the holiday. Did you hear of this? I had not until tonight. This is new. I just found it. President Donald Trump personally paid for hundreds of Christmas dinners for members of law enforcement who were working over the holiday. Hundreds of Christmas dinners were served on Christmas Day to members of the Secret Service, the White House Military Office, and the Palm Beach Sheriff's Department, according to a source speaking to CNN's Noah Gray. The meals were described as a full Christmas spread and included turkey and a dessert buffet. The meals were served from 1 to 7 p.m. so that everyone could get food on a rotating basis. Trump spent his Christmas holiday at his club in Mar-a-Lago. And I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that is a nice Christmas. That is a happy story. It's stuff like that makes you think, okay, just how insane are the left? And the answer is the left is really insane. Now, I told you tonight, I tend now to think of my shows in terms of how many tabs I have stacked up on my Windows 7 computer over here. I don't even have Windows 10, and I'm wondering how long this computer, even though it has a solid-state drive, is going to hang on with me. So please, it's a Sony Vaio, hang on. Please, at least hang on. But I tend to think in terms of my shows now as how many tabs I have open that I'm going to refer to. And a lot of these tabs have just content. Some of them are just audio cuts, and I line them up chronologically. And so tonight is a 21-tab night. However, I thought that because eventually I'd like to get him on, and I really love his stuff that he writes, I thought tonight being the end of the year, 2017, it'd be nice to get everybody back into the thought of just reading Kurt Schlichter, because he, like I said, he writes stuff that I wish that I had written myself. And the first one that we're going to talk about tonight that I'm going to be reading to you is timeless, and it's timely as well. And it goes like this. By the way, this is going to be the Kurt Schlichter Commemorative Hour. We're going to read some articles, and after 2, I'm going to read an article not by Kurt Schlichter, but it's an article that sets up the Kurt Schlichter response to it. Now, if that might be tickling the brain-housing groups of some of the people that kind of have an idea where I'm going, but once you hear me read the article, the original article to which he responds, you'll say to yourself, oh, I can't wait to see what Kurt Schlichter does with this. While we're here, I want to say thanks to the folks that are in chat. You want to go to chat, go to shrmedia.com, click on air, go into the chat room, log in. It's chat roll. We can have 100 people now. Woohoo! And I want to say, hey, it looks like Robert Brandt. Welcome. We got White Mamba. We got Mike in chat. And we have one viewer who is who will not be unmasked because we don't do that here. We're not the U.S. government. Now, the article, the first one that I have, is Kurt Schlichter, and it says, Christmas is the perfect time to mock liberals and other random thoughts. I think you're beginning to see why I like Kurt Schlichter. When we gather together this Christmas, it's going to be super awkward since everybody is dead because Donald Trump pulled out of the Paris climate scam, repealed net neutrality and cut taxes, the depredations of Genghis Khan, the Black Plague, and the repeal of the Obamacare mandate. These are pretty much the same thing. Santa Claus and all of our dreams are dead too. On the plus side, since we're all dead, there's no one to make eggnog, which is the worst of all possible nogs. As an aside, I have never once had eggnog. I don't have the slightest interest in eggnog just because of... No. Whoever... Oh, thanks. Okay, here we go. Kurt writes... No, whoever invented eggnog is the second grossest human being ever who is not Lena Dunham, exceeded in grossness only by the first person being who thought, look, an oyster, I know, I'll put that slimy thing in my mouth. The Democrats are the eggnog of American politics. Please discuss. Santa stuffed coal into the Democrats' fishnet stockings this year, as well as all sorts of other fossil fuels. The president turned on the Keystone Pipeline, unleashed our miners, and told the environmentalist whiners to go frack themselves. Growing up near San Francisco, a town memorably described by, I believe, comedian Bobby Slayton as the city that makes its own gravy, I got used to goateed, over-tatted, progressive doofuses who...
At Canic Firearms, we believe in the power of freedom. Freedom to protect, to defend, and to live confidently. That's why we're proud to introduce the Canic Mete MC9L and MC9LS, precision-engineered pistols designed for today's American. Whether you're carrying concealed or out at the range, the MC9L and MC9LS are built for accuracy, durability, and comfort. These pistols are the perfect blend of performance and dependability because freedom isn't just a right, it's a responsibility. Canik, superior firearms.
Imagine that the electricity that powered their iPads and automatic bongs came from magical windmills that didn't ever dice and slice bald eagles. I'm sure you get that reference. Of course, chopping up symbols of U.S. strength would probably be a plus in their beady, bloodshot eyes. But the point is that liberals were never really about clean power. They were about outsourcing the dirty, messy, icky work of regenerating power to those lesser mortals out there in real America. That is, until they realized that those lesser mortals out there in real America were happy and prospering thanks to the energy industry, and we sure can't have red staters being happy and prosperous. Heck, if you work and support yourself, you don't need coastal liberals' largesse, guidance, and control. Hence, their hatred of fossil fuels, which is really their hatred of normal Americans. The progressives try to disguise that fact that environmentalism is really just a way to stick it to the red rubes by wrapping their carbonophobia in the sacred doctrines of the weird weather cult. Yeah, 2017 has been a terrible year for Gaia, but she struck back with hurricanes and fires, which are totally the result of global warming. Of course, the recent run of years where there were no big fires or hurricanes were not indicative of a lack of global warming because you hate science or something like that. And 2017 has also been a bad year for the entertainment wing of the Democrat Party, Hollywood. Remember movies, those fun things you would see for a few bucks in the theater? I saw Star Wars. Damn, have they aged badly the other day. Don't worry, there will be no spoilers because I don't really remember it. After tickets, popcorn, and my Bombay Sapphire and Tonic. Okay, I'm going to have to try that. I've never gone to a movie theater and taken, like, say, vodka with me. But hey, there's a clue, perhaps. Do you really think I'm going to watch Spock and the Space Orc Knights use laser swords to battle characters with names like Snork and Zub Chudlugi without a stiff belt? This exercise in mediocrity cost me about $100. Look, the movie didn't retroactively ruin my childhood, as so many internet nerds have complained. It was just kind of meh. It tried to do some lib sucker punching, as John Notley calls it, but it hit limply, like a puny never-Trumper. For example, in that screen crawl at the beginning, the resistance is in all caps. I'm guessing that's some sort of clever Hollywood zinger at Donald Trump, which some producer probably came up with in his hot tub surrounded by moist, glistening interns. Nice catch of phrase, that. Take that, Donald Trump. Take that. Luckily, there's some awesome conservative action and adventure out there for normals who like their heroes red and their bad guys, gals, gender non-conforming beings blue. But if you dig lib propaganda, there's a new Steven Spielberg movie about, really, how the Washington Post was heroic for publishing classified military documents 50 years ago. Last spring, libs were having a collective, just a self-wetting because the Donald allegedly let slip highly classified info to some Russian guy during a meeting. It's probably tough to recall this particular. This is the worst thing Trump ever did, freak outrage. Among all the hundreds of other, this is the worst thing Trump ever did, freak outrages. And now these same libs are going to give a bushel full of Oscars to a movie about the WAPO doing exactly that. By the way, if you love irony, follow that link back to see the names of the news organizations with its journo panties in a bunch about Trump disclosing highly classified info. And Kurt says this, and I've said this for years. Folks, hypocrisy, thy name is liberal. By the way, this movie stars Meryl Streep, the same woman who led the standing ovation for Roman Polanski and covered for Harvey Weinstein, and who came out at one of the festivals of movie industry, Onanism, to chide President, look that up, by the way, Onanism. You need to Google that, O-N-A-N-I-S-M, icky. To chide President Trump for his moral shortcomings. Well, she'd know about moral shortcomings. Meryl's choice was her career. And speaking of hypocritical weasels, the Democrats wisely declined their progressive wing's demand to use the DACA fight to restage the Alamo, probably because this time the Americans would have won. Instead, they kicked the budget can down the road to January and fled town, not particularly wanting to compound their stinging defeat on tax reform with one on illegal aliens. Yeah, a government shutdown over the holidays because the Democrats won't play unless Republicans let a couple million illegal aliens become citizens is a bad visual. Around the Christmas table, even that annoying sophomore nephew who is home from Gumbo State for Kwanzaa will kind of have a problem arguing, but we should totally cut off vital services for Americans in order to let MS-13 members be rewarded with our precious citizenship. Now, as your late family gathers together, all dead because of Trump's authoritarian reign of terror, try to remember that in the spirit of the season, you should mock your liberal friends and family unmercifully. It's a painful time for them. The economy is booming, ISIS has been beheaded, and Mueller hasn't found Schiff. That's why it's so very important to kick them when they are down. Because Christmas is a time where we celebrate giving, so give them grief. Because quite frankly, as he writes, that's the only way they'll ever learn.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch River Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
At Century Arms, we're committed to supporting your freedom, your rights, and your way of life. With generations of craftsmanship and innovation, we proudly provide firearms that embody the spirit of liberty. Introducing the new Sharp Brothers MB-47 rifle, designed for precision, built for strength, and ready for anything. Whether you're on the range or defending what matters most, the MB-47 rifle is where generation meets innovation. For more information, visit us at centuryarms.com now.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Power brokers use corrupt politicians, deceptive Islam, and lies from establishment media to turn the once shining city on a hill into the city of the blind. What do the elites fear? One man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me at SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Spreaker, iTunes, and YouTube for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hello, I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
This is Jersey Joe, host of the Reverb Common Sense, and you're listening to SHRmedia.com.
And we're back. Try to turn up the headphones there, BZ. This is the final show of 2017 on the Berserk Bobcat Saloon, right here live and direct at the SHR Media Network studio in Sacramento, Fornicalia. Live and direct in the studio itself. Weird kind of fetus-looking lava lamp thing going on over here that I referred to last Tuesday as sort of maybe alien in nature. I think Ridley Scott would be appreciative of something like that. And it's the Kurt Schlichter Commemorative Hour tonight because Kurt writes great stuff. We just read an article. I just read an article to you about Christmas and Kurt's view of Christmas time. And I've been thinking on this subject, his next article. I've been thinking about this for a while, and when I found this article written by Kurt, I went, okay, number one, I've got to read it. And number two, you know what? I completely concur with this. And then after this one, I'm going to read a different article and lead to a third Kurt Schlichter article. And after this one, you're going to get them both. And it's just absolutely glorious. This one is entitled that Kurt Schlichter writes, "Don't fire Mueller, President Trump. Let him keep making a fool of himself instead." Kurt Schlichter writes, "My birthday is next week." And he did have a birthday last week. Happy birthday, Kurt Schlichter. And I'm old enough to remember back when Robert Mueller's Russia whatever investigation was about collusion. Remember collusion, that wacky concept from the heady days of early 2017, back when it was all Trump and Putin sitting in a tree, K-I-S-S-I-N-G. Well, we aren't hearing much about collusion anymore. In fact, we aren't hearing anything about collusion anymore except from Adam Schiff whenever he gets off the phone with Tater Stelter at CNN long enough to essentially insist that the collusion is also very, very obvious and that evidence is just a bourgeois conceit. And also, please don't look at these scheming bureaucrats behind the curtain. Let's see. Mueller got Paul Manafort for stuff he did back when the idea of President Trump was still a far-out Simpsons gag. He got General Flynn for doing what Trump fired him for. He got some nobody named George Platypus or something for lying about something that means nothing. But did he get anybody on collusion? Anybody? Did his unbiased, Trump-hating, committed Democrat minions ever even leak any evidence of it, since they've leaked everything else? Hey, look, tumbleweeds. This pseudo-scandal is a joke, a scam, a desperate attempt by the establishment to try to claw back the power that we, the people, relieved them of when we dissed their dominatrix Felonia Milhouse von Pantsuit. Kurt, I love that name. And they're showing the same level of skill, savvy, and raw competence that led us to give them their walking papers. Now, it's a toss-up as to whether Mueller is too dumb or too arrogant to bother hiding his team's indisputable conflicts of interest and manifestations of improper intent that should shock the conscience of any American with a shred of decency, a category that excludes the vast majority of the mainstream media, liberals, and the cheesy never-Trump weasels of Conservative Inc., Incorporated, who yearn for a return to the days of old when people paid attention to them and booked passage on their sad sailing adventures. Ooh, ow, zing, zing, hack, slash, parry, thrust, Kurt Schlichter. Whew. Mueller is a bad joke who doesn't seem to be in on it. He's bumbling forward, apparently ignorant of just how horrible it looks, how horrible it is to have hired no one but committed Hillary donors for his team. Actually, it's much, much worse than that. He's actually hired lawyers who represented some of the unindicted criminals associated with the Clinton mosaic of corruption. Perhaps in the world Mueller inhabits, with tools like Jim Comey, another buffoon who loves to preen in the glow of a once spotless reputation that he chose to Schiff all over, this plays. But in the real world, in our world, it's a sham, and it's not a very good one at that. The Russiagate non-scandal scandal is just another establishment grift, and it turns out that Mueller is the mark. So, Mr. President, please don't fire this guy. Let him stagger on for a while longer, destroying the facade of credibility our establishment betters thought they had constructed, and that forms the basis of their shabby identities. He's got nothing, he will always have nothing, because the idiotic salve for the suckers.
At Canik Firearms, we believe in the power of freedom. Freedom to protect, to defend, and to live confidently. That's why we're proud to introduce the Canik Mete MC9L and MC9LS, precision-engineered pistols designed for today's American. Whether you're carrying concealed or out at the range, the MC9L and MC9LS are built for accuracy, durability, and comfort. These pistols are the perfect blend of performance and dependability, because freedom isn't just a right, it's a responsibility. Canik, superior firearms.
Was that Hillary's excuse for losing to you? The Russians did it. Yeah, the Russians was always a fraud. A way for that drunken, aspiring tyrant and her coterie of slobbering courtiers to explain away their humiliating failure to beat you. As the noose tightens on them, a noose they tied and slipped on themselves, thinking they were going to use it on that infernal interloper. The end game becomes clearer and clearer. The end game is their own downfall. The dike is leaking like a sieve, and the media liars no longer have enough fingers to plug all the holes. You have senior FBI leaders taking out insurance policies against disfavored candidates being elected by the American people in the form of politicized and partisan investigations. You have these same bureaucrats with badges conspiring with a shady leftist Oppo research group to fake evidence, which they would then take to FISA judges to get warrants to let the Obama crew spy on the operation. Stop. Folks, eventually this is what is going to be proven. I have every belief in what Kurt Schlichter just wrote. That's where it's all leading. But wait, there's more. You have a special prosecutor who is grabbing potentially attorney-client emails because niceties like attorney-client privilege don't matter when their establishment buddy's personal power, position, and prestige are at stake. Their cover-up is being uncovered slowly, surely, relentlessly, despite the best efforts of their mainstream media bodyguard of lies. And they are afraid. Their panic accounts for the recent series of ridiculous provocations designed to psych the president into firing Mueller and shutting down this prosecutorial Donner Party. Conning the Donald into precipitous action was their only hope, a ploy designed to create a martyr out of that sad-faced shrub. When the transition email thing broke, it was, oh yeah, oh boy, Trump's going to totally fire Mueller now. Social media was swamped by a coordinated Twitter tsunami of liberal femboys and celebrity fatties threatening to waddle into the streets. The streets! Armed with their outrage and, inexplicably, cell phone chargers to right this impending wrong. For its part, conservative Twitter watched this festival of fussy indignation and concluded that their proposed second civil war would go really quick and be really amusing. Well, this farce is grinding to a halt, threats that Mueller may try to drag it out for another year notwithstanding. Improperly seizing the transition emails was not a flexing of Mueller's atrophied muscles, but a confession that he is spinning his wheels. The transition, came after the election that was supposedly influenced by all this invisible, quote, collusion, unquote. But hey, perhaps someone sent an email on a .gov account saying, gee, remember how we worked with Vlad to get him to buy $100,000 of Facebook ads promoting that the Hillary wants to outlaw the flag story from True's News targeted at working-class whites in Wisconsin, and how that won the election? Good times! Unlikely. Even team smartest woman in the world, who still lost to Donald Trump, was smart enough to use its own servers for its illegal activities. Mueller and his Loretta Lynch mob don't have squat. They know it. We know it. Even somewhere in the backs of their minds, past the voices and the demons, the never-Trumpers know it. The Grand Marshal of the HIPAA court is not going to arrest everyone in the White House for treason. Mueller is going to come out with a report with lots of innuendo and a few outright lies, but no yellow scalp a year from now, 3 years from now. And if the wins keep coming, 7 years from now, Donald Trump will still be president. Kurt Schlichter concludes, don't fire him, Mr. President, at least not yet. Do something even crueler. Let Mueller and his pack of Democrat clowns keep making fools of themselves. And for that, I have to say, you know what, Kurt? I completely concur, 100%. It's like watching a crossfire situation where you've got some soldiers or cops on one side and you've got some soldiers or cops on the other, and the target is in the middle, and what you have is basically them shooting at each other. It's a crossfire situation. And Kurt Schlichter quite wisely points this out. Now, I told you I'm going to read another article because we're going to lead into a final Kurt Schlichter article. And this is, again, where we get to laugh our arses off at leftists. And you're going to love this. This is from a, well, the website itself gives, it's a big giveaway. You may have read this, but I don't think you've heard the original story and the Kurt Schlichter response put together quite like this. The first article is from a website called, clue, everydayfeminism.com. Wow. And the headline reads, 10 things every intersectional feminist should ask on a first date. Oh, you're going to love this. As a queer femme of color, I keep close relationships with people who go beyond allyship. They're true accomplices in the fight against white supremacy, queerphobia, and misogyny. If you're not going to support marginalized folks, then we can't be friends, let alone date. The personal is political. Beyond the lovely cushioning, happiness, and support that we receive from our platonic relationships, which are, in all honesty, soul-feeding and essential, feminists also date. But there are questions we have to ask before we get close to someone. The following list of questions is applicable to all relationships, certainly not just cisgender, heterosexual ones. Number 1. Do you believe that Black Lives Matter? Yes? Wonderful. Let's start there. There are 3 categories that are non-negotiables for me. An understanding of race, class, and gender. Not everyone understands how these 3 can be insidious, systemic, and intertwined, but anyone who doesn't take the time to learn how systemic racism works isn't going to care about how racism affects me or people who are darker skinned than I am. I don't want to have laborious discussions where I have to prove to someone that white privilege or non-black privilege exists. If they're willing to learn and...
At Canic Firearms, we believe in the power of freedom. Freedom to protect, to defend, and to live confidently. That's why we're proud to introduce the Canic Mete MC9L and MC9LS, precision-engineered pistols designed for today's American. Whether you're carrying concealed or out at the range, the MC9L and MC9LS are built for accuracy, durability, and comfort. These pistols are the perfect blend of performance and dependability because freedom isn't just a right, it's a responsibility. Canic, superior firearms.
Listen and make the space to decenter their whiteness, if they're white. That's a good place to start. Number 2. What are your thoughts on gender and sexual orientation? The gender binary is a tiny box, and I wish it didn't exist, but it does. I wouldn't want to be with anyone who is queerphobic. One out of many important elements to dismantling patriarchy is to abolish gender roles as well as the limited understanding that we have about sexuality and gender itself. I can't imagine being with someone who is transphobic. As a feminist and woman of color, it would be a betrayal of what I stand for. Ignoring trans misogynoir would be to deny one of the biggest, most despicable problems that we face. 3. How do you work to dismantle sexism and misogyny in your life? I've met cisgender, heteronormative, cisnet men who hate women. They say they love women, but that love is conditional on not having their toxic masculinity questioned or threatened in any way. And they love us as a monolith. They love what women have to offer, whether it's sex, food, love, care, emotional labor. They love us for what we can do for them, not because of who we are for ourselves. It is crucial for cishet, C-I-S-H-E-T, cishet men to learn how to decenter their male privilege in order for them to understand the multitudes of interpretations of femininity and womanhood. Beyond Misogyny 101, does the person you are with understand rape culture, systemic sexism, and misogynoir? Are they willing to learn if they don't? Misogyny is more than the pay gap. Walk away from anyone who believes that boys will be boys and that women are supposed to be mothers because we're nothing but ambulatory incubators. Number 4, what are your thoughts on sex work? You may scratch your head at this one, but much like racism and misogynoir, being pro-sex worker is a necessary pillar of dismantling the patriarchy. I don't mean pro-sex worker in the sense where non-sex workers write op-eds and think pieces about how sex work is amazing and feminist. I mean the kind where we pass the mic to sex workers because they know their experiences better than anyone who hasn't ever engaged in sex work. I mean the kind of pro-huism where you understand the labor of sex workers of color, especially trans women of color, who engage in sex work because their experience and knowledge is crucial to understanding the oppressive structures of the world. Number 5, are you a member of the BDS movement? BDS stands for Boycott, Divest, Sanctions, an effort to end international support for Israel's oppression of Palestinians. I grew up with Jewish, Israeli, and non-Israeli friends and Palestinian friends. Before even understanding how power and oppression work together, we understood the trivial hatred that colonized and put in constant danger the lives of Palestinians every single day. Eventually, I learned about apartheid from a theoretical perspective, and I began to understand the terror, trauma, and stress of having anyone and everyone you love and care about get killed simply because one nation has the military backing and power to destroy your land for them to settle on. Being pro-Palestine is not the same thing as being anti-Semitic. I shouldn't even have to express that, but being pro-Palestine and BDS is a necessary part of intersectionality. Number 6. What is your understanding of settler colonialism and indigenous rights? I didn't grow up in the United States. I was raised in Switzerland, so my understanding of how Europeans committed genocide against indigenous populations here in the U.S. was fairly limited. It required a good deal of my own research to really understand how settler colonialism works and how devastating the erasure and violence against Native Americans is and was. Your date thinks Native Americans are tropes or relics of the past? No thanks. A key part of intersectionality is having a complete understanding of how historical and current policies endangered the lives of millions of people simply because of white supremacy and the colonialistic entitlement to finite resources and land. Number 7. Do you think capitalism is exploitative? Anti-capitalism, especially in the U.S., is imperative if you have an understanding of systemic racism, the prison industrial complex, the 13th Amendment, and exploitation. Capitalism, for one, teaches us that we are only valuable if we produce capital. That means if you aren't contributing to the system with your labor, your life means almost nothing. If your date says they're anti-fascist and part of the resistance, but they're cool with exploiting labor from communities of color and they support the school-to-prison pipeline, then there's a good chance they'll only value you for your ability to nurture them without any reciprocation. Number 8. Can any human be illegal? We live on a tiny planet with land and water within a galaxy surrounded by a universe with an inconceivable number of other galaxies and planets. Yet, Here we dictate where we are and who is allowed to be where we are. It's mind-boggling that borders are even a thing. So to call people aliens or illegal immigrants is so inhumane and despicable. White Americans stole this land, colonized this land, created so many borders, pushed out, killed, and enslaved people of color, and somehow they have the audacity to claim that this land is theirs and that black and brown immigrants are stealing their jobs, land, and homes? Miss me with that bullshit. Number 9. Only 2 left. Number 9. Do you support Muslim Americans and non-Muslim people from Islamic countries? I can't think of any other religion which has been vilified and lied about more than Islam in a cultural and systemic way. I am not Muslim, so I will stay in my lane. But I cannot imagine for a second even claiming to be a feminist if I didn't stand in solidarity with my Muslim friends and family, especially now after 9/11. Don't waste your time and energy on dating someone who thinks that Islam is inherently violent or misogynistic. Instead, read some Huda Sharawaya or Mona Etahawe to educate yourself further on Muslim feminism. 10. Does your allyship include disabled folks? As an able-bodied woman, I will stay in my lane, but intersectionality has to include a solid platform for disabled people and not just the visible disabilities. If you have disabled family or friends, please make the effort to listen and learn about their lives and their experiences. Disabled folks are subject to shaming and violence because humans are awful and lack empathy. Be mindful of others who mock disabled people. That kind of cruelty is inexcusable. On a date with someone who uses ableist slurs, walk away. Okay, now, that having been said, we're going to go to my regular voice. I guess that was my indoor voice. Now, I might go a bit to my outdoor voice. I don't think I'm going to get this done completely before the end of the first hour, but by God, we're going to charge into it. Because, and now you understand why I had to read the article, that article, in such a fashion, and I think you get it. Because here is Kurt Schlichter's reply. And the headline is this: 11 things every real conservative should ask on a first date. Recently, a young being, I don't want to presume its gender identity, but it'll probably throw a hissy fit about my blatant chrono-shaming anyway, scribbled an article entitled 10 Things Every Intersectional Feminist Should Ask on a First Date for his, her, fellow liberal freaks. It's an illuminating view into the twisted minds of the SJWs, but the article never answers the first question we all asked ourselves reading the title. Why the hell would anyone ever date an intersectional feminist? Thank you. Huzzah. Digital fist bump to Kurt Schlichter. Masochism? Threats? Lost a bet? Anyway, his, article is meant to help his, readers determine whether their prospective mates will be adequate, quote, accomplices in the fight against white supremacy, queerphobia, and misogyny because you're not going to support marginalized folks, then we can't be friends, let alone date. The personal is political. Wow. He, she, Z seems super fun, huh? We normals seek accomplices in reproduction, while SJWs, by the way, for those who don't know, that's social justice warrior. While SJWs seek accomplices in ideological onanism, again, look up that word, onanism, O-N-A-N-I-S-M, ooh, icky. Take solace in the fact that we were totally going to outbreed these lunatics. No shite. But as conservatives, it's vital that we also do some screening of our own. After all, the last thing we want to do is inadvertently turn down a Darwinian, not a through street, and spawn more liberals. I'm out of the dating game, thanks to my closed-minded, heavily armed, hot American Cuban wife. But let me try to help out you singleberries with some questions to assist you in detecting any right swipes who are actually covert leftist weirdos, losers, and or mutations. Okay, a couple more minutes before the top of the hour break. Number 1. Do you believe that any group's lives matter more than others? The answer should be a resounding yes. American lives matter more than the lives of foreigners. Our allies matter more than our enemies. And some people, like jihadists, perverts, and people who refuse to acknowledge the manifest truth that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, matter not at all and should be hunted for sport. If your date starts telling you some races matter more than others, get up and leave, preferably sticking your date with the check. The last thing you want is some pro-eugenicist who puts people into categories based on where their great-great-great-grandfather came from and then justifying it because every pale truck driver from Lawton, Oklahoma was somehow born with overwhelming privilege. Actually, if your date ever uses the term privilege, non-ironically, ditch. 2. How many genders are there? The proper answer is 2. There are 2 genders, not 3, not 4, not 67, 2, male, female. That is all. How do you work to dismantle sexism in your life? The correct answer is I don't. I work to support myself with a job so that I'm not some freeloading bum feeding off Uncle Sucker. If your date has enough dough to indulge in this whiny posturing, money probably provided by his or her ultra-disappointed father, who's living back in some suburb and wondering where he went wrong, then stick him, her with the check. All right, that's number 3. We are going to get to number 4. Folks, you are listening to the Kurt Schlichter Commemorative Hour, which will turn out to be almost an hour, because I didn't start doing this until about quarter after. It's the top of the hour. It's 9 o'clock on the left coast. On the east coast, it's the witching magic hour. It's midnight. And in Bolivia, it's 17:38 and 127 seconds. We're going to go to a break. You're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct, here on the SHR Media Network. Don't go away.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
At Century Arms, we're committed to supporting your freedom, your rights, and your way of life. With generations of craftsmanship and innovation, we proudly provide firearms that embody the spirit of liberty. Introducing the new Sharp Brothers MB-47 rifle, designed for precision, built for strength, and ready for anything. Whether you're on the range or defending what matters most, the MB-47 rifle is where generation meets innovation. For more information, visit us at centuryarms.com now.
surrender ever. Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on SHRmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk, the Sackheads Radio Show, only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it
again. Some of the best A-roll is going to be B-roll.
Like, what are you talking about?
Just the last question that you're going to cut a couple seconds.
Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Good point. Exactly right.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you're listening to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon live and direct in the sumptuous and palatial SHR Media Network studios less than 2 miles from the belly of the beast, the Bill Mill, as I broadcast behind enemy lines in occupied Fornicalia. That's where we are. And I was reading an article, as I have been, by Kurt Schlichter, and it's a response to a crazy article that some female chick wrote about called, well, the original article she wrote was called 10 Things Every Intersectional Feminist Should Ask on a First Date. And this is Kurt Schlichter's response. And the third question that he asks in response is, how do you work to dismantle sexism in your life? The correct answer is, I don't. I want to support myself with a job, so I'm not some freeloading bum feeding off Uncle Sucker. And you stick them with the check. The fourth question is, what are your thoughts on guns? That's what you should be asking conservative potential dates. Your date should answer, you don't have enough guns. This answer should come before you have to mention just how many guns you already have. Relationship rule of thumb. No one gets to first base without an appreciation of the Second Amendment. Thank you. Number 5. Do you support Israel in its fight against 7th century savagery? The only acceptable response is, oh, hell yeah. Extra points if your date adds, every time the IDF launches an airstrike on Hamas, an angel gets his wings. And all that land the Palestinian thugs are squatting on, hey, that's part of Israel too. Question number 6. What part of your understanding of, or what is your understanding of settler colonialism? Your date must understand that it is awesome. The greatest achievement of the last 1,000 years was the European settlement of North America, South America, whatever, and the building of the nation that is the greatest beacon of justice and freedom in history of humanity, the United States of America. Now, Elizabeth Warren notwithstanding, Native Americans are terrific in many ways, including their legendary record as warriors serving in Americans' armed forces. And they sure don't need or want some lib doofus's pretend pity. There's no cheaper, tackier sentiment than a pinko rich chick from Brentwood calling Thanksgiving a celebration of genocide. And whinging on about how those mean old settlers conquered the continent back in the olden days of the 1940s or something, as if she's ready to pick up her condo and move back across the ocean with 325 million other folks. Number 7, do you think socialism is wonderful? Your date should ask, is that a sick joke? The last thing you want is some commie pestering you about how true socialism has never been tried. Look, if 100 million dead isn't enough to put your date off the Marxist garbage his or her professor shoveled at them in his or her school, then your best case scenario is waking up and finding all your cash missing. Number 8. Do you believe in climate change? The answer is yes. The climate changes all the time. What you really want to know is whether your date is a cultist affiliated with the liberals' weird weather religion. Here's a good way to find out. Offer to drive your date in a Ford F-150 pickup truck with no catalytic converter to a local wood fire barbecue joint that advertises, "We have the best ribs and the biggest carbon footprint in town." If your date's response is, "But that seems like a socially irresponsible earth crime against Gaia," go alone. If your date's response is, "Let's Uber instead so we can both drink lots of beer," consider proposing marriage. Number 9. Do you support people from Islamic countries? The right answer is yes, which is why I support American warriors hunting down and killing jihadist scum in whatever stinking cesspool these cowardly semi-humans are hiding in. 10 bonus points if this prompts your date to mention his or her army tour in the Middle East. 5 points if it was with the Marines. 3 for Navy. If Air Force, no bonus points, and expect the date to complain that the restaurant's chairs aren't comfy enough. Number 10. So what do you think of CNN and the mainstream media? This should provoke a tidal wave of obscenities and profanities and a torrent of phrases like fake news, that weasel Don Lemon, and don't even get me started on Brian Tater Stelter. If your date says something like, "Well, I think journalists try really hard to be objective and do the best they can to report the truth," then you should, depending on how hot your date is, either bail immediately or work to help your date get conservative woke. Some awesome conservative literature is a good start. Number 11. So, do you consider yourself never Trump? This is a deal killer. Sure, if your date is a never Trumper, you might get a conservative ink cruise out of it, provided you're willing. Oh, that is so hacking. You might get a conservative ink cruise out of it, provided you're willing to sit through a scintillating panel discussion with Bill Kristol talking to Ben Sass about healthcare reform and spend your evenings drinking Idaho Chardonnay on the Lido deck while David Frum reminisces about back when he mattered. I think you see why I like Kurt Schlichter, but don't do it. If your date answers in the affirmative, you can be sure that, like with the president, no matter what you do, no matter how conservative you are, your date will never be satisfied with you, and you will spend the rest of your date complaining about your lack of true conservative principles. And you can be equally sure that if your date is a salon-approved Fredo-con, you're unlikely to ever be satisfied either. Anyway, Kurt Schlichter, thank you ever so kindly for writing these articles. I just had to bring this stuff to your attention. That's why this was the Kurt Schlichter Commemorative Hour. And now what you need to do daily, every other day, whenever, is go quick like a bunny to where Kurt Schlichter can be read, and that's over at townhall.com. I'm plugging Kurt Schlichter. Go to townhall.com because right now I'm going to be plugging next. As I said and I swore, we're going to be making more fun of leftists. As you well know, leftists have no fucking sense of humor. They lost it. I don't even know if they particularly had it, but these days, certainly within at least the past 5... No, let me rescind that. Within the past 8 years, if leftists had any sense of humor, it has absolutely abandoned them, and with true, well and good reason. Vanity Fair came out with a video a couple of days ago, and oh my God, are they getting crap for it. And I don't think they should because it's funny. And to even play this, I kind of I kind of had to dig around a little bit to find this because YouTube doesn't make something as obvious as this easy to find. These days with YouTube and anything that's, the Alphabet Agency oriented or owned social media, to find the stuff that to me should be obvious when you put in certain search parameters, this stuff is not as obvious as you may think, and I believe that's entirely purposeful. But leftists are complaining about a video which is actually funny, done by Vanity Fair, about Hillary Clinton. And the video is entitled, with a very slovenly looking Hillary Clinton on the face of the video, it's entitled New Year's Resolutions for Hillary Clinton. And I want you to hear it because this is actually funny. But remember who produced it.
It's time to start working on your sequel to your book, What Happened? What the hell happened?
Get someone on your tech staff to disable autofill on your iPhone so that typing an F doesn't become Form Exploratory Committee for 2020.
You know, on Anderson Cooper, you were telling him about alternate nostril breathing. You seem really adept. You should try teaching a class.
Take more photos in the woods. How else are you going to meet unsuspecting hikers?
Take up a new hobby in the new year. Volunteer work, knitting, improv comedy, literally anything that'll keep you from running again.
To finally put away your James Comey voodoo doll. Now, we all know you think that James Comey cost you the election, and he might have, but so did a handful of other things. It's a year later, and time to move on.
So cheers to you, Hillary Clinton.
Cheers to you, Hillary.
Cheers to you, Hillary Clinton.
Oh my God. Well, now, it wasn't uproariously funny, but it was vaguely amusing. And just for being vaguely amusing, did Vanity Fair, did the shite ever get thrown on their windows? OMG.
Hillary Clinton just won't go away. And staffers at Vanity Fair have some suggestions to keep her busy and out of politics.
It's time to start working on your sequel to your book, What Happened? What the hell happened?
Get someone on your tech staff to disable autofill on your iPhone so that typing an F doesn't become Form Exploratory Committee for 2020. Take up a new hobby in the new year. Volunteer work, knitting, improv comedy, literally anything that'll keep you from running again.
Literally anything that'll keep you from running again. This is a video created by leftists for leftists. Ooh, I think you're starting to see the evil inherent within that video.
To finally put away your James Comey voodoo doll. Now, we all know you think that James Comey cost you the election, and he might have, but so did a handful of other things. It's a year.
In other words, meaning, oh, you did it yourself, old lady.
Later, and time to move on.
So cheers to you, Hillary Clinton.
Cheers to you, Hillary.
Literally anything, please. Those New Year's tips for Hillary didn't go over well with some of her supporters, and there's been backlash on social media over the video, some calling it sexist, predictably, to suggest Hillary take up a hobby like knitting. The staffer who made that comment says they did snarky New Year's resolutions for a bunch of politicians.
Wait, what did Kurt Schlichter call Hillary Clinton? And I love this name. He called her Count Felonia von Pantsuit. Oh, I'm sorry, Count Felonia Milhouse von Pantsuit.
Including President Trump, and a spokeswoman for Vanity Fair was contrite, saying it was an attempt at humor, and we regret that it missed the mark. Tom Shalhoub, our resident knitter.
Oh, now they're sorry. Vanity Fair is sorry. They actually tried humor, which is a bad thing in the first place because, as we all now, if not ever, now you certainly realize leftists have no damn sense of humor whatsoever.
Is this sexist?
Not sexist. They did, she had a number of...
At Century Arms, we're committed to supporting your freedom, your rights, and your way of life. With generations of craftsmanship and innovation, we proudly provide firearms that embody the spirit of liberty. Introducing the new Sharp Brothers MB-47 rifle, designed for precision, built for strength, and ready for anything. Whether you're on the range or defending what matters most, the MB-47 rifle is where generation meets innovation. For more information, visit us at centuryarms.com now.
Suggestions. She said knitting, which is, I guess, is associated with women. I'm not a sexist, so I don't know. He also suggested she take up comedy, an art form associated with men. So I think that...
That's sexist. I do not like that.
And they went on and on and on and on. And Vanity Fair went on with that, too. Here's another funny thing, because we're going to change gears. I want this... Tucker Carlson has been gone this week, and Mark Stein has been in for him. And I'm going to go and play this particular cut for you, because we're going to go into another article about... Now we're changing gears, going into immigration. I should tell you that the guy that you're going to hear is a former State Department official. And his contention in front of Mark Stein is that the West, you, me, Europe, primarily Caucasoids is what he means, is we need to keep taking migrants until we fix their countries.
I've read some of your articles on the aging statistics that you mentioned, and they are very interesting and thoughtful. And I think you make some good points there. One of the ways, though, we stop migration from Africa to Europe, as you mentioned, is to set up these centers in Africa. So there are staging centers there where people can apply, and they'll know whether they're going to be given refugee status or not. But ultimately, we also have to do more to turn these countries that are becoming failed states into more stable, prosperous countries, so people do not want to leave them. That's going to take a lot more engagement by Europe. Europe is not doing enough in Africa to stabilize these countries.
Wait. Europe is not doing enough in Africa. Wait a minute. Just like Melanie Colette said last night on the Sackheads radio show, maybe Libya should take care of Libya. Because after all, it's Libya. Maybe countries should stay in their lane and take care of their own countries. Is it the fault, by the way, that most of the nations in Africa are corrupt piece of crap dictators who are black themselves and don't mind fucking over their own fellow citizens? Because that's what's actually happening in Africa. Just as an example.
Europe used to do enough, and it's called colonialism and imperialism. And it's actually very hard, isn't it, to do it at one remove by just giving money to international aid and development things.
That's all
well,
they
that's
want.
Not just what I'm talking about. And obviously there's something in between colonialism and zero engagement. We have to be engaged. We have to be promoting democracy. We have to be promoting economic prosperity. And we have to make these countries safe and prosperous and stable so the people stay there and they don't seek illegal migration. I've read some of your articles.
Right, so what he's saying is this. Let me translate left speak. You're not paying enough. You're not doing enough. You're not letting enough people into the United States. And you're not letting enough people into Europe. Really? Well, I happen to write an article about that. And it was called The High Cost of Illegal Alien Crime. Because now we actually have statistics that indicate that bureaucrats have been lying to you about illegal alien crime for quite some time. The accurate summary from that recent Department of Justice DOJ report about crime and illegal aliens, it goes something like this. Now, this is from Tucker Carlson.
Mark Stein is an author and a columnist. He joins us tonight. Mark, are you surprised by these numbers?
No, I'm not, because I think it accords with most people's experience of the transformative effect of immigration.
Now, what numbers is he talking about? The DOJ report came out about a week and a half ago, which said 1 in 5 federal prisoners is foreign-born. Prisoners. That means crime. That means committing crime against lawful Americans.
And it's logical, too, that when a first world country imports continuously a large unskilled population into its country illegally, that is an act of law breaking at the conception, and there's no reason why they would then have any other respect for other laws. And to be honest, I mean, I found that last 5 minutes surreal, where you know your guest's main concern is that certain illegal immigrants are getting crimes committed against them by other illegal immigrants, and they're scared to go to the police. That's not what these statistics show. These statistics, which for political correctness reasons we were prevented from knowing in recent years.
Recent years? How about 10 years? At least 10 years, because during that amount of time, every leftist you've ever engaged in any kind of a discussion, if they actually will engage you in a tete-a-tete, back and forth sort of dialogue discussion, the first thing that they're going to tell you is that illegal aliens, or not illegal aliens because they're just other, they'll use another word like undocumented persons, are actually nicer than Americans, and they commit fewer crimes than Americans, and that's one of the main reasons that you need to let them into the country.
Show that this country is, in effect, importing a criminal class.
Thank you.
And it does not check any aspect of the criminal class it imports. Now, the fewer...
Also, I should point out that in a recent discussion, AG, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, said that non-citizens commit a disproportionate number of drug-related offenses as well.
Of us who have the misfortune to go through the legal immigration system, I went to see Neil at Homeland Security in Manchester, New Hampshire a couple of years ago, and he asked me about whether I'd committed any crimes, and I said I'd been pulled over by a traffic cop in Montpelier, Vermont, for passing a little old lady at 17 miles an hour, but I got the case dismissed. Neil from Homeland Security in Manchester, New Hampshire, wanted to see proof that the state of Vermont had actually dismissed that complaint against me. So we have a bifurcated system here in which law-abiding people have to dot every I and cross every T, and every single day we import drug gangs, money launderers, murderers, drunk drivers, because the professional lobby group your previous guest represented somehow thinks this is in the interests of the United States.
Let me tell you one thing that I've said for a long time. I emphasize this, and I will continue to do so until my dying day. Demography is prophecy. Demography is prophecy. When a particular group reaches peak and then basically breeds itself into a greater number, that's when things are going to turn. Oh, evil BZ, evil BZ. Muslims are going to be the number one individuals. They're going to rule Europe. Demographically, prophetically, it's already now prognosticated by 2050. 2050, Europe will be predominantly Muslim. And do you think that Muslims will embrace every culture there in Europe?
It's not at all.
The rector of my church spent the better part of a year waiting for a visa. He spent 20 years in the British Army. They didn't want any more Scottish Anglicans in this country because they're dangerous. Meanwhile, all of Congress is arguing about how we can keep people who snuck in illegally here, and you're a bigot if you're not for that. So what does this reduce? So like the key argument has always been that immigrants are better than we are. I mean,
immigrants are better than we are. Stop. We talked last night on the Sackheads radio show about how Fornicalia, my state, this state right now, Governor Jerry Brown, in his infinite leftist wisdom, has decided that he's going to waive crimes. Immigrants who have committed crimes, he's now waived their crime and exonerated them. Bing! Meaning that, he's doing that so that they won't be deported. So the people who say that making classes is bad, that we need an absolute classless society, has now striated society in terms of where I sit right now. Immigrants have more rights than I do, and that is a striation of a class. How is it that a lawful citizen such as myself now has fewer rights than an illegal in the state of Fornicalia?
Isn't that the argument you hear every day? Like, they commit fewer crimes than you do. They work harder. They're just better people. How dare you complain about them? Now that we know these crime rates are way higher than they are for American native-born, what's their argument now?
Well, Nancy Pelosi has said that...
Facts, 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 facts. You throw facts in the face of a leftist, and they don't have an argument, and so, of course, it's going to degenerate into nothing but fuck you, and you're a racist, add any ist that you want because they have no argument and they have no facts.
That we ought to thank the parents of the dreamers for bringing them here because, as you say, they're better than us. If you listen to people like your previous guest, every single dreamer is a high school valedictorian just wrapping up his third tour of Afghanistan.
Yeah, not.
They're way better than us. So the only way to get the general depravity rate down in the United States is to import more and more low-skilled immigrants illegally across the Rio Grande. That's the argument Jorge Ramos made. Oh, no, you're much safer being...
Jorge Ramos, by the way, and I'm going to come right out and say it because it's true, Jorge Ramos is a racist.
...in a town of illegal immigrants than you are in a town whose...
When you favor one race over the other, you're a racist.
Whose population got off the Mayflower. And the fact of the matter is this is absolutely the inverse of the truth. The statistics you cited, even taken as a whole, 94% of these non-citizen criminals in federal custody. And by the way, this is just the tip of the iceberg because 90% of incarceration is at the state and local level.
Stop right there. I have a massive amount of statistics, but it would shock you, or would it shock you to realize and know that depending upon the day, the county of Los Angeles main jail and the series of complexes that fall under that, the number of illegals who are in custody in their jail ranges from 35 to 40 to 50 to occasionally 55 to 60% of all the people that are in custody in the county of Los Angeles. It fluctuates, but the statistics... He's not even talking, he's talking about the federal system. Oh my fucking God, when you go into the state of California system?
The proportions show that about 94% of these non-citizen criminals in U.S. federal prison are illegal immigrants. Why does any country need to import a criminal class? If that is one of the jobs that Americans will do. Americans are happy to murder and rape and sell drugs to each other. You don't need to import other people to do that.
Yeah. Well, one job that Americans are less interested in is voting Democrat, and these are people who will do that. So that's kind of the point of the whole thing.
Reason.
Mark Stein, thank you.
That's the reason, period.
Right.
End
Thanks
of statement.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
That's the reason right there. Okay, so now to which DOJ report is Tucker Carlson referring? And why is the release of the report germane at this time? The general public wouldn't have been privy to this information regarding the true impact of illegal aliens on crime in the United States if it wasn't for an executive order signed by President Trump on January 25th of 2017, numbered EO13768. And you can get on your favorite search engine and check this out. EO13768, entitled Enhancing Public Safety in the Interior of the United States. The order explicitly states now that the numbers of foreign-born individuals currently in the U.S. federal prison system must be reported quarterly. Without that, there was a purposeful reason to bury these stats. They didn't want you, the American taxpayer, leftists did not want you, the American taxpayer, to know what kind of an impact these people were having, especially if you or a loved one or a relative or a friend were injured, hurt, or killed by an illegal, ranging from drunk driving and beyond. There was no such requirement for that beforehand because, frankly, leftists, Democrats, the American media maggots, and a number of Republicans, they don't want you to know. It would not have furthered their collective and individual agendas, and it would have interfered with their individual and collective cash flows, okay? Moreover, they didn't want you, as I said, the American taxpayer, to know what was happening. What? Illegal aliens? Not the huggy, lovable, honest, charitable persons they've been made out to be. Oh, heresy, apostate, malcontent, troublemaker, radical.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Good evening. Broadcasting behind enemy lines and occupy.
At Canik Firearms, we believe in the power of freedom. Freedom to protect, to defend, and to live confidently. That's why we're proud to introduce the Canik Mete MC9L and MC9LS, precision-engineered pistols designed for today's American. Whether you're carrying concealed or out at the range, the MC9L and MC9LS are built for accuracy, durability, and comfort. These pistols are the perfect blend of performance and dependability, because freedom isn't just a right, it's a responsibility. Canik, superior firearms.
California. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is featured on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night for 2 hours at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. Whilst manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ continues to radically change the world of leftists, one diaper at a time. Stop balancing your checkbooks. Stop cleaning your fish tanks. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is your magnet for truth, justice, obesity, a darkened studio, and late-night freedom. No United States of America freedoms were abridged in the making of this ad.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on SHRmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk, the Sackheads Radio Show, only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it
again. Some of the best A-roll is going to be B-roll.
Like, what are you talking about? What do you mean?
Just like the last question that you cut a couple seconds.
Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Good point. Exactly right. Oh, God.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Live and direct from the SHR Media Studios, you are listening to the final segment in the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. It's the last show of the year. It is Thursday, December 28th, the year of our Lord 2018. It was the Kurt Schlichter Commemorative Show, which I focused a showcase of Kurt Schlichter articles. Occasionally, it's late at night, the mouth doesn't function, and we were talking about illegals and how the illegals are in the country, and both sides of the aisle seem to want to have more of them, and a report basically came out that said, with statistics, that illegal aliens are committing more crimes than Americans could ever have postulated before, because now there's a mandate via an executive order from President Trump to collect this information for dissemination to the American public so that we can discuss and understand the true impact of illegal immigration. So, from the Alien Incarceration Report, fiscal year 2017, quarter 4, a total of 58,766 known or suspected aliens were in DOJ custody at the end of fiscal year 2017, including 19,311 and 19,311 in USMS custody. That's U.S. Marshal Service. I was a marshal at one time. Of this total, and there's a whole bunch of statistics about that, a highly important note about this particular study is this, though. The report does not include data on the foreign-born or alien populations in state prisons and local jails, because state and local facilities do not routinely provide DHS or DOJ with comprehensive information about their inmates and detainees. This limitation is noteworthy because state and local facilities account for approximately 90% of the total U.S. incarcerated population. Do the numbers on that. That is it is absolutely a staggering number then. DHS and DOJ are working to develop a reliable methodology for estimating the status of state and local incarcerated populations in future reports. According to the numbers, this is what you need to be sitting down for. According to the numbers, 1 in 5 individuals in DOJ, that's federal custody, 20% were born outside of the U.S., and a significant number are illegal aliens. Besides the physical cost and the toll taken on true Americans in the population, up to and including murder, rape, robbery, sodomy, various sex crimes, and child abuse crimes. Illegal alien incarceration costs American taxpayers nearly $2 billion, that's with a loving B, $2 billion per year. Now, the funny thing about that is, I had what I considered to be a really obvious answer to this. And we had this, by the way, up until 1965, when we decided that we were going to be politically correct, even back in 1965, and we dropped it. Up until that point, what did we have? Well, we had the same thing that Canada, and Canada won't tell you about this. We had the same thing that Canada has now and that Australia has now, and that's this: merit-based immigration. In other words, what are you bringing to the table for Canada, and what are you bringing to the table for Australia? They want to know, how are you educated? What kind of educational level do you possess? Do you possess any skills? Do you bring any trades? And at one point And again, folks don't know this. They don't recognize or realize this. Canada, back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, I cannot say for sure what their policy is now, but back then they had a massive exodus from China into Canada. Specifically, a lot of Chinese ended up in Vancouver, and for a time, if you were Chinese, you could not get into Canada unless you brought the equivalent of $10,000 with you if you wanted to become a Canadian citizen. Do you hear about that now? Of course you don't. Stop. Back up. Now, do you remember about a month, maybe 2 months, maybe even 3 months now ago, when Pierre Trudeau was bitching at the time about how all these evil aliens were leaving the United States of America, going across the Canada border and into Canada proper? And Trudeau had a hissy fit telling the United States and wagging a finger at us saying, you need to shut off this terrible influx of your illegals into Canada. We just can't handle it. Yeah. Well, the underlying subtext, not mentioned by Trudeau or anyone else in the leftist party, the French, the frogs in Quebec, is they don't take people like you. They want people with skills. They want people with cash. What they have is a merit-based immigration system. We had it in 1965. We need to go back to it again. Because even with Europe, and quite frankly, I kind of don't care what happens to Europe, but I have to. They're forcing me to, because what happens in Europe will eventually end up sliming over here across the pond into the United States. But what occurs over there is eventually going to come over here. And what do they have in Europe? They have literally millions of unskilled people. And there are only so many lawns to mow. There are only so many crops to be picked. There are only so many buttons to be pushed at McDonald's for the cheeseburger icon. And what do we know about those jobs? Those types of jobs, particularly in the United States, and I'll wager certainly in Europe as well, those jobs are going away. Why? How? They're being replaced by automation. Well, on one hand, especially in terms of picking fruit, vegetables, etc., a lot of the machines are having to be built because they're discovering that if you invest in a one-time purchase of equipment, then you end up ramping down your employee costs, and people, low-skilled, low-educated people, are costly. So if you have to do something in bulk, that's why more and more machines are being created to do the jobs once done by humans. Because that stuff just moves on. One of the biggest, and here's an example. I know a lot about railroads because that's sort of one of my hobbies for a while. Railroads in the United States, at one time there were over 200 discrete and separate railroads in the United States of America. Railroads were some of the most labor-intensive jobs around. One of the reasons, for example, here's something that you may not have thought about. The Central Pacific built a railroad, the transcontinental. Boy, am I getting off topic here when I was talking about illegal immigration, but that's okay. That's how BZ's mind works when it's working. The Central Pacific Railroad and the Union Pacific Railroad were building the transcontinental route. The Central Pacific essentially started in Sacramento and began to build east. As it's beginning to build east, as you go up what is now Interstate 80, the reason that you have so many numerous towns up Interstate 80 that eventually filled with a lot of people is because with each new town, that's only as far as the steam locomotive could go before it required water. And so that's how we ended up settling the foothills and then the Sierra Nevada mountains. And it took at one point 3 to 4 people to operate a steam locomotive. A steam locomotive is incredibly labor intensive. There were literally hundreds and thousands of people employed in the railroads for decades But because of automation and the transfer from steam to diesel electric locomotives, a lot of jobs got chopped. Right now, there's 2 people in the cab of every diesel electric locomotive or electric locomotive, and there's a push to put only 1 person in the cab of locomotives. So jobs are being eliminated left and right in terms of automation. And yet, despite that, Europe is insisting that it needs to import millions more. Where are these people going to go? Where are they going to live? Demography is prophecy.
At Canik Firearms, we believe in the power of freedom. Freedom to protect, to defend, and to live confidently. That's why we're proud to introduce the Canik Mete MC9L and MC9LS, precision-engineered pistols designed for today's American. Whether you're carrying concealed or out at the range, the MC9L and MC9LS are built for accuracy, durability, and comfort. These pistols are the perfect blend of performance and dependability, because freedom isn't just a right, it's a responsibility. Canik, superior firearms.
They're bringing their country with them. And we see from history they are less and less willing to assimilate into the culture and the environment. Here in the United States, at least certainly in California, one of the reasons they're not assimilating is because in the state of California, we are fucking insisting that they don't assimilate. And you wonder where your taxpayer money is going. $2 billion. Illegal alien incarceration costs nearly $2 billion per year. You know, isn't that odd how that's not the argument that has been framed by lovers of illegals, lovers of DACA, lovers of lawbreakers. Here's some stats for you. If you want some stats to talk about with your good friends, you know, the leftists. According to information from the U.S. Sentencing Commission, non-citizens are actually far more likely to commit serious crimes than Americans are. Non-citizens account for 22%, more than a fifth of all federal murder convictions. 18% of fraud convictions. 33%, a full third, of money laundering convictions. 29% of drug trafficking convictions. And 72% of convictions for drug possession. Meanwhile, the non-citizen percentage of the American people, about 7%. What we need to do is we need to be bottom line honest. The Democrats want illegals because they're useful voting tools. They are a tool. Democrats want to be elected in perpetuity because by ensuring the demography of all the free cheese demanders, it skews their way. Obviously, yes. That would be illegals and minorities. Minorities with air quotes, because in the state of Fornicalia, I now statistically am a minority. Folks don't want to tell you that. They don't want that known in the state of Fornicalia. Leftists and the American media maggots want illegals for those reasons, and they take into account They take into account Gaup fear. That's what I call Gaups are guilty, overeducated white people. Fear, PC, racist factors against Caucasoids. Republicans want illegals because they work for lesser wages than other Americans, and that saves on the business bottom line. But as I indicated, that's temporary, and that's not going to continue to last. To bandy about a word thrown by the leftists, that's unsustainable. You know, call me wacky, call me a tinfoil hat wearer, but I still believe that the so-called 3 million vote advantage that Hillary had over Donald Trump was due to voter fraud and illegals voting unchecked. In terms of lawful votes, I truly believe that Trump equaled, if not slightly exceeded, the votes for Hillary Clinton, but the leftists are making sure that that was all eliminated, and you'll never know. Now I'm going to transition over to the final story for the night. I still have 12 tabs open for stories that I would love to have gotten to tonight, but we're going to have to roll them over Tuesday night. But I want you to know about this, because it involves, again, our loving Barack Hussein Obama. And I want you to definitely know that Obama screwed the DEA and favored Hezbollah in order to acquire the Iran deal. As I'm wont to say frequently, I kind of love it when the bodies of my enemies, they kind of float serenely by on the river. As I sit on its bank, I have a nice leisurely lunch and admire the view. And then somebody ends up passing the potato water, and usually it's me. I call that schadenfreude. Look it up on your favorite search engine. All of the years of Obama's nefarious, biased, corrupt, America-hating policies are being exposed, and they will be exposed. One amoral, venal, shocking incident at a time. This is the tip of the proverbial Obama iceberg. There is so much more buttery Obama corruption yet to be revealed. You can take that to the bank. And so, from Breitbart.com, here's an article report. Obama derailed DEA probe into Hezbollah in Latin America to save Iran deal. Now, we're going to get into this in a second, and I can tell you why, but one of the first things that people and myself, we commonly thought is, what could be the possible motivation for Obama doing something like this? I have it sussed out, but let's go through the article in an audio cut before. We've got about 8 more minutes to go before the end of the show. Former U.S. President Barack Obama's administration derailed a DEA operation targeting Hezbollah's multi-million-dollar drug trafficking activities in Latin America to secure approval of the controversial Iran nuclear deal, reports Politico. Iran's narco-terrorist proxy Hezbollah. Hezbollah is the terror arm of Iran, make no mistake about it. They're involved in a plethora of criminal activities in Latin America, ranging, just as I indicated, from money laundering to massive drug trafficking. What? For years, the U.S. military has been sounding that massive klaxon horn as the threat to the United States grows bigger and bigger, and it's posed by the presence of Iran and Hezbollah in America's backyard. America's backyard, Latin America. So what does Neil Cavuto and Peter Brooks have to say about it?
There's a Politico report that says the Obama administration gave a free pass at the time to Hezbollah's drug trafficking ring to ensure the Iran nuclear deal would happen. Now, a lot of people in retrospect say, boy, that's an immediate rush, like a sort of an unnecessary rush over life and death issues like the safety of humankind. You had a lot of criticism from the left over a rush to get tax cuts done, which, if you come to think about it, are just with about a little bit more money in your wallet.
Stop just a second, by the way. I don't know how many people emphasize this, but one of the most important things that you need to know about Obama disrupting the DEA investigation is the DEA had gone so deep and for so long they had all the characters and all the players, wanted to get them together in one central state, one location where they could be immediately arrested. Obama put on hold for his political gain to give $1.8 billion to Iran in cash on pallets in the interior of a C-17 in the dark of night and send it to Iran. Why cash? Because it's fungible. How many Americans were killed by that cash? Many. But the thing I want to point out that very few people do is this investigation that was derailed by Obama. This investigation wasn't that just the past 6 months or a year. It had been an 8-year investigation.
So what do you think of that? Let's ask national security expert Peter Brooks. It is a little inconsistent, Peter. What do you think?
Well, I would have hoped that we would have
kept pressure on Hezbollah as well. There's a number of reasons, Neil, because not only were they trafficking drugs to the United States and Europe, but they also used the profits for that for doing other nefarious things, including supporting terrorism, supporting the Syrian regime, Iraqi Shia militias in Iraq.
8 years.
So this is very troubling. And in the end, what we had it appears from if the article is correct, right? Of course, this is reporting, right. And we should hear from the other side.
By the way, the article is proving to be correct. 8 years.
And maybe others want to look into this, including Congress. But it would have been, in the end, what we got was a bad nuclear deal. And Hezbollah, we missed opportunities to take apart Hezbollah and its international global enterprise of terror and drug trafficking. So I don't think we did very well in the end if these reports are correct.
Yeah, without characterizing the intent here, I talked to the fellow who wrote the article, and he was telling me on Fox Business that it was about getting everybody on board, that if Hezbollah wasn't on board with this, if some of these nefarious elements in the region weren't on board with this, there would be no Iran deal. And so the administration at the time, the way it was explained, pushed to ignore.
Okay, so you understand what they're saying. Iran basically knew that Iran, if Hezbollah was prosecuted and their terrorist arm, if Iran's terror arm, Hezbollah, were prosecuted, Iran would look to Barack Hussein Obama and say, blow me. We're not doing a deal with you. And Obama could not have that occur.
Certain things so they could at least get a commitment on this deal and come back and revisit this other stuff. But, of course, that other stuff was never revisited.
Yeah, that's the way it appears. And that's troubling. And we can't go back and replay this, can we? We can't examine what they call the hypothetical counterfactual if they had done something differently. I believe that we really had Iran in a situation there with the international sanctions that we could have continued to put pressure on them, and I think they would have come to the table, but can't go back and examine that either.
Yes, you can. I've only got about 3 minutes left. It was a very ambitious U.S. task force that ran for 8 years, targeting Hezbollah's billion-dollar criminal enterprise, and it ran like right smack dab into the wants and wishes of Barack Hussein Obama. In his insistence that we secure a nuclear deal with Iran that was biased in the first place, the likes of which Barack Hussein Obama did not reveal the truth behind who was against it and who was for it in Iran. And I'm going to have to cut to the chase, and that's this. This deal was derailed. Now the information is coming out about Barack Hussein Obama. This is the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be more crap coming about the Obama administration. But here's one thing that Donald John Trump can do. He has the ability to do it. He has within his lawful ability to do it. And that's this. He can go to the DEA because they still have all the paperwork with this, and he can say, you know what, it's time to build another investigation. Screw Iran. We're going after Hezbollah.
Monsieur has unlocked!
We'll meet again.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I want to say thank you for listening to the Bloviating's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show right here live and direct on the SHR Media Network. Last show of the year, 2017. I will be back next week, Tuesday and Thursday. If you want to contact me, I highly suggest that you read my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. You want to contact me on Twitter, I'm at bzep, B-Z-E-P on Twitter. You want to send me an email? Lots of people do. Not necessarily nice emails, bz at shrmedia.com. Promotional consideration is by Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And, of course, by Pratt & Whitney Engines. Thrust you can trust. Thanks, of course, to my personal KC-135 Kettle One vodka refueling team with whom I will be consorting. You can bank on that, too, within the hour. Thank you ever so kindly for listening tonight. Thank you for being in chat. Thank you for listening in the podcast. Have a great new year. Don't be silly, stupid, or fattening. Be safe.
Everybody quiet.
quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.
At Century Arms, we're committed to supporting your freedom, your rights, and your way of life. With generations of craftsmanship and innovation, we proudly provide firearms that embody the spirit of liberty. Introducing the new Sharp Brothers MB-47 rifle, designed for precision, built for strength, and ready for anything. Whether you're on the range or defending what matters most, the MB-47 rifle is where generation meets innovation. For more information, visit us at centuryarms.com now.